Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live. Going to take some questions. And as we wait for people to hop on here, real quick, I have since written two articles, one for military.com that was more of a question that was brought up recently about should I worry about PED testing at SEAL training? My answer is yes, you should, as with any test that you have to pass, whether it's the ASVAB or the PST or urinalysis for drugs. Yes, you need to definitely worry about those and do things to help you pass them that are natural. And in the article, first of all, I just explained it, the testosterone to epitestosterone test that is used by the World Doping Agency, World Anti-Doping Agency, IOC, NCAA. They use that 4-to-1 standard. So just to give you an idea that a normal human, probably not a normal human, I wouldn't classify people who go to buds as normal humans, normal males, um, as testosterone levels. So you may be high naturally compared to a 1-to-1 ratio that is normal. So they give athletes in the world of higher level athletics a 4-to-1 margin that they have to stay within, um, and they say that's about 95% accurate, and that 5% of the people um, may go above that and get caught up in potential for people thinking that they're using PEDs, but it's just you just have a naturally high ratio. And that could be from training, it could be from your mastery of recovery, because all of these things help you lower cortisol, help you increase testosterone naturally. So, my job as a trainer and a coach would be to give advice to help you master recovery. Because whether you want it to be for an optimal performance goal or you want it to be for a longevity goal, both of them require the mastery of recovery, which will in turn help you keep higher testosterone levels, lower cortisol levels. Um, and that's good training advice. However, if you are caught up in this test and you have never used anything, you don't know anything about it. And that's what's unfortunate because I'm getting, you know, contacted from people I know that have like, I've never seen this stuff. I don't know what it is. No one's here really helping me with how to figure this out. I just got pulled from training and I got to get my, numbers down before I can enter training. How do I do that? So the quick answer, and I wrote this in the article, this is kind of like the worst training advice I've ever given anybody. But it's basically you are no longer, for a short period of time, maybe a week, maybe two, you are not focused on your recovery, meaning you're sleeping less. So if you sleep 7 to 8 hours, drop it to 3 to 4 hours. You're going to be stressed because you got to pass this thing. So that may help you naturally increase your cortisol levels, which in balance can definitely interfere with testosterone levels negatively. There are foods that you can eat. Um, you can Google a list of them, but everything from, you know, tobacco use, which is just gross. I don't recommend doing it, but I guess you could dip or maybe take the Zen stuff that's nicotine. Um, that also increases cortisol levels. Um, Soy, licorice root, mint, processed foods. So something that you can consider for a short period of time is buying like package of ham that you use for sandwiches and just use white enriched bread and eat those things. Ugh, reminds me of like school box lunches in the 80s. Um, so anyway, it'd be a little dehydrated when you take the test again. So all of this advice is just horrible training advice. It is the worst advice I've ever given anybody to pass a test. And that's unfortunate. Um, but that's basically what you have to do. You have to be a little unhealthy to get those numbers down. And that's hopefully this is just phase one of this testing process. And maybe, they will learn, a better protocol, better procedures that don't cause people to get pulled out of training and now they have to go unhealthy to reduce their testosterone naturally. So we'll see. I think everything's is in part of a evolution right now, and to be able to catch people that are using PEDs, you may have to catch some people who are not in that net. It's unfortunate, but if the ultimate goal is to hopefully deter people from using PEDs, then I'm all for it. To be honest with you, because it is really dangerous to have high testosterone levels doing this type of training. I mean, you're more susceptible to SIPE, swimmer induced pulmonary edema. That leads to pneumonia, that leads to heat casualties, that leads to rhabdo, and it's just a big snowball from there. Um, and your heart beats inefficiently. So because of that, so you could actually die from pneumonia or rhabdo because your heart is not effectively helping you get through those ailments and they become much worse. So consider that if you're even thinking about it. But first of all, don't even think about it because you don't need it. All right. So let's move on. See, a few people have commented. Ever met Royal Navy divers? Yeah. Yeah, we've had a few, have a couple friends here in the East Coast that were former um got a couple of them, former commandos, former divers, all good guys. All good guys. Met some SBS guys, worked with those guys too. It was fun. Why do you think steroids and PEDs have little to no effect on performance at buds? I didn't necessarily say that. I just think they're potentially proven, potentially dangerous because of it's going to help you recover, which will there in turn probably make you perform a little better, be a little faster, than your classmates that aren't using them. However, it's cheating and it's also potentially dangerous should you start to get water in your lungs, which is very common in aquatic training environments. If you Google SIPE triathlon athletes, you will see that swimmer induced pulmonary edema is very common in triathletes and open water swimmers. And with less heart efficiency pumping that fluid out, it can lead to really bad pneumonia. And if you try to run with pneumonia, you're going to become a heat casualty. That's going to lead to rhabdo. It's just a vicious snowball. So I didn't say they weren't effective. I just said they are definitely dangerous in that. And primarily it's just going to help you recover and not feel like yesterday. You don't feel yesterday and the day before's workout as much because you're able to recover faster. That's pretty much the only reason you're going to be wanting to use those things. If one has recurring shin splints, what modality of exercise translates best to running? I would say biking hard, but it can't just be biking, you know, in the park. You need to get on a stationary bike, put high resistance, and really push your ability to um, to breathe in that. In fact, I'm going to send you um, an article in here that's pretty good. Another exercise I would recommend when you have shin splints is to balance, work on your balance, because that will help you get some blood flow to there without impact as well. But biking, in fact, I just had a guy who hasn't been able to run for 8 weeks, and his starting mile and a half time was 12 minutes. And we went nuts on biking and swimming for 8 weeks. And then that ninth week, he had to take a fitness test. He ran for like 1 week and it was okay. Um, we really reduced his running to very little, maybe 5 miles a week. And he went from almost 12 minutes to like 10 flat. So he dropped 2 minutes on his mile and a half, which is basically saying you went from an 8-minute mile to a sub 7 mile without running at all, and mainly biking. Biking was the thing that did it. And we did a couple different types of bike workouts. We did one called the bike pyramid, where you just start on level 1. Every minute you increase the level. Level 2, you're at 2 minutes. Level 3, 3 minutes. Boom, boom, boom. 4. You go all the way up until you cannot pedal anymore at a range between 70 and 90 RPMs. If you can't keep it between 70 and 90, then you start in reverse and go back down to where you can keep it, and you finish the pyramid that way. We usually get up to like 15 minutes up and then 14 minutes down, something like that. Sometimes you can hit a 16, 18, 20, depending on how that resistance feels on that particular bike. Um, but yeah, you want it to be about a 20, 30-minute challenge for sure. First 5 minutes are pretty easy. The middle 10 minutes are pretty tough, and the last 5 minutes are pretty easy. It's a nice little warm up, max out, cool down, all built into it. That's why I love the pyramids, because no matter how you do the pyramid, it's a nice little warm up, peak level, and then cool down all at once in one little easy to follow programming. And then the other one were Tabata intervals. So you do like 5 to 7 minutes of 30-second sprint. Or no, sorry, 20-second sprint, 10 seconds easy. 20 seconds fast, 10 seconds easy. You just keep going through that for 5 to 7 minute sets, hop off, do some squats, lunges, get back on. Those are two really good ways to work the lungs. The other way we do it was like skip breathing freestyle swimming. So whenever you're swimming freestyle, you'll, instead of breathing every 2 or 3 strokes, you go for like 6 or 7 strokes or 8 or 9 strokes per breath. And that gets really hard on your heart and lungs. You definitely make swimming harder by breathing less. Do you think Bubba Eisenhower started his mobility days? I don't know. I'll have to ask him. Good question. It usually requires something other than me suggesting it. Like, it's like maybe he's really sore one day and he's like, hey, I'm going to try this mobility day, see what happens. Or maybe he's sick and just has to pull back a little bit. Usually it's not me saying, hey, you got to try this easy workout, especially if you like hard workouts. And no one wants to do an easy workout if they can do a hard workout instead. But, it's like trying to put your little humble pie there and realize that it actually works really well. It's going to make your following hard workouts even better later in the week. Let's see. As a 300-pound weightlifter, should I follow the non-impact cardio pyramid and the calisthenics? As I am kind of lost on how to get down to 191. Woo, man, you are a big boy. Um, yeah, you know what? You're going to be strong, even if it takes you a year to lose that 100+ pounds, which is typical, and you don't touch a weight for a solid year. You are still going to be stronger than anybody else under that log and under that boat. That is just the way it is, typically. Um, there may be other guys that were former lifters too that also did the same thing. They'll be your only competition. But lifters tend to not lose a lot of strength. Now, you won't be happy with your 1 rep max when you get down to 191, especially what it used to be. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. You need to worry about your calisthenics, your muscle stamina, your cardio and running, swimming, and rucking. I'm assuming you're doing this to go to some kind of military training. That's just an assumption of mine. If you're not, then it doesn't really matter about all the different elements of fitness that you need to focus on. You can still lift some, but you're definitely going to want to do more um, calisthenics and cardio. And watch what you're eating. You can't eat like a 300-pound power lifter. You need to eat like a 190-pound exerciser, which is tough. It's tough to be able to eat whatever you want and go lift big weights and get strong and see those results. And then, I remember doing the same thing and not quite that heavy, but I mean, people thought I had AIDS, whenever they would see me at 225 and then I'm down to 185. This was the 80s when everybody was scared of AIDS. So, um, no, it was alarming to lose that much weight. And but I was still pretty strong and I got in a lot better shape and I basically turned my cardio into that of a triathlete. So 2/3 of my cardio was all non-impact cardio, and then I mixed in some running as well, but it was very slow, not a lot of volume at first. I probably wouldn't even start running until you're probably 250 or less, just because your knees will thank you for not running at 300 pounds. But I wish you well. That's always a good challenge. I've had several guys that trained with us that were 300 plus and got down to 200. And every one of them, I think the shortest I've ever seen it was about 8 months, lose 100 pounds, and kept it off. But also got in military shape at the same time. There's a difference between losing 100 pounds in 4 months and getting in shape. Some people, lose that much weight and they're in worse shape because they haven't done anything other than starve themselves. So, um, that's a good one. That's a good little challenge, man. Good luck to you. As an American citizen, I don't want our spec ops getting artificial results in training that may not be able to maintain during deployment. Absolutely. 100%. Plus, it's cheating, you know? And if that's the mindset you're going into this community and, all you really want to do is cheat your way through stuff, there's a difference between, cheating and using your imagination to get through a problem, right? And make something easier that's difficult for your deployed teammates, right? That's not necessarily cheating. You know, having all these weapons going into you know, a gunfight and your superior weapons over the others, you have air superiority and all that. Is that cheating? No, that's just wise thinking. But yeah, on an individual level, um, you definitely don't want to start your career, being the guy that cheated his way through. How much sleep do I get each day? I usually get at least 7. But I mean, there are some days where I'm only on 6. Sometimes I'm just up late, can't go to sleep, um, working late. But I would say between 7 and 8 is my regular time. So I usually go to bed at 9, wake up at 5. I might wake up once in the middle of the night, use the bathroom. I tend to hydrate at night. But for the most part, it's pretty solid 7, 8 hours. Yes, I wake up at 5 a.m. Sometimes 5:30. I love that bike workout. I need to do that since I'm gonna not be able to run anywhere next week. It's great, man. It's an awesome one. Um, depending on the bike that you have, another one I enjoyed was, I think Life Cycle has this one. It's a fitness test. It's like a 5-minute fitness test. It's a really good little challenge. Just ranks you. I don't know how it ranks you. I can't remember how it exactly ranks you, but it's kind of a fun test. Then the other one, and this one sucks really bad, is how quickly can you burn 100 calories, right? Can you burn 100 calories between 6 and 7 minutes? Because if you can, that means your resistance is up pretty high and you are pushing hard on that bike. So yeah, try that one. Try the 100-calorie challenge, the fitness test, depending on your bike that you have, the pyramid, and the Tabata interval. Those are 4 great workouts you can mix throughout the week to challenge yourself on the bike if you can't run for a while. Morning, Stu. How true is it that 800 divisions and dive mow are coming back? I have not heard that. I've seen rumors about it returning this cycle. How much of a difference will it make preserving quality candidates? To be honest with you, having the 800 division, the dive motivator, the um, mentors in every recruiting district, it at least got eyeballs on your candidates, before they went. But it really wasn't much of a screening process, and it didn't really produce um, lower attrition rates like you would want it to. Unfortunately, according to many buds instructors, he said they were just getting better in shape quitters. So I am not sure. I think one of the reasons why they moved out of the 800 divisions and the dive mo is they just really didn't want um, to deal with um, Chicago area winters and training, and um, this is probably more of a response to the COVID, where they were just sequestered forever, um, than anything else. But they had a hard time, you know, using facilities because it's a big Navy base, and so the only time they could really use them were like 4 in the morning, which just really added more stress to the students. Um, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure how beneficial it was. If it's needed, if they bring it back, great. It's another way to get some eyeballs on people before they head to buds. Maybe produce some quitters out there before they even have to ship them. I think that would be a good way to save money if you're looking at saving money. As for swimming, for your non-swimming athletes outside of the 50-50, what do you typically advise? Do you ever have you guys train long, slow swims just to build confidence? Sure. Yeah. In fact, today is usually on leg days. We tend to do more longer distance swims with fins, and like 60 minutes, go. How far can you get? Can you get close to 2 miles? and that's 2 nautical miles, so close to 4,000 yards. If you can get close to that between 60 and 70 minutes, you're in really good pace for passing the events at SEAL training that are a weekly 2-mile ocean swim. But yes, we build up to usually 90-minute swims, probably 85, 90-minute swims. Typically with fins though, but some days if you're just working some conditioning, we'll do maybe 45 minutes to an hour of swimming, variety of sets, hundreds, 200s. One of my latest is the try to get as many 300s as you can in 25 minutes. So that's a tough one. I think I did 7 300s. No, I did not do that. I did because I did 7 300s in a workout, but that was before 40 minutes, because each 300 should take you about 5 minutes to do. So I did almost 5 in 25 minutes. But that was like zero rest, and if I got any rest, it was like 10 seconds before the next 300. Then that was pretty tough. So that took some time to build up to. So probably not for the immediate non-swimming athlete, but as you get in better shape, there's no reason why you can't do 4 to 5 300s in less than 25 minutes. Let's see. What are some ways for me to stay underwater longer for the longest? I could go for 120. I want to get comfortable underwater. You know what? I don't really make these recommendations. I don't uh I don't really play around with this. Unfortunately, people die every year, and you can Google this. Buds candidates, future Navy sailors are practicing for underwater swims and drown proofing, and they actually die practicing this. So I don't recommend doing a lot of breath holds. I recommend learning how to swim underwater efficiently. So you can go from one end of the pool to the next 25 yards or meters in about 5 strokes. That means 5 arm pulls and a glide and 5 kicks and a glide. How efficiently can you get 25 yards? Can you do it in 5 strokes? That is what I recommend. I've seen guys do it in 3 strokes. So you if you can get yourself very efficient underwater, a 50-meter underwater swim is really about 50 seconds. It's about a yard per second, and it's easy as walking and holding your breath for 50 seconds. If you do it efficiently. If you are just one of these guys that are, you're not going to go very far. Is there any reason why you haven't considered taking PEDs or steroids? I just never even entertained it. Well, I take that back. I was 17 years old considering it in high school, before I was making that transition to go um, high school football to maybe college football. And then I got accepted into Navy, and I realized if I can't do that because there'll probably be testing, Navy tests and all that. So I just never got into any cycles of that stuff. It was available even in the 80s, but just never got around to it, never learned about it. That's why I had Jeff on recently, just because he has some personal knowledge as well as a coach dealing with it. Um, I just never saw any need for it. And I still don't. I'm 53, and a lot of people my age are starting to take like the testosterone replacement therapy. My T is low. I get it. You know, I'm not as high T as I used to be. but I still haven't pulled the trigger on that one either. Not sure I will. Right now, I don't feel like I need to. I think I really mastered my recovery to a point where I should maybe this next doctor's visit that I have for my physical, I'll get tests done and just see where I am. Curious. I think last time I did it, I was like 400, which is not high. I think below 300 is low, but 400 is probably average 50-year-old level. Glad you like these. Thank you. Wise FHD. I don't know what the hell that is. You guys speak English. Not sure if you saw my post about the gift. Yeah, I saw that. That was really cool, man. That was awesome that she did that. She's a nice lady. I'm assuming you were swimming for her son in that frogman swim. I would definitely um, keep that forever. That looked really neat. Well played, Mama Deets. Have you worked with actual short people? 5255. If so, how have they done in selections? I've seen a guy 4'11" make it through buds. He was a beast too. He's like 4'11" and like a 145. I mean, just a rock. Um, like one of those little wrestlers that just crushed the lightweight classes. But anyway, he was a tough kid. Made it through fine. Had to run twice as far as anyone else that was going for a run. Seemed like his legs were pretty short, but he was king of the Smurfs for sure. So the common denominator there is you don't want to be short and skinny. You definitely, if you're gonna be short, you definitely want some mass on you just so you can handle some of the loads. Same for being tall. You don't want to be tall and skinny either. You want to have some mass on you so you can handle those loads for sure. How do you recommend your finning progression? I read your article on it, but do you recommend starting with smaller fins a few times a week for a few weeks, then bumping up to rocket fins? Absolutely. Um, I would recommend, um, some. I use a brand called Sporty, Sporti, just slip-on fins for a few weeks, and we only swim with fins 3 times a week max. So usually on our leg days or our big cardio day, we'll do a run, swim, ruck or something like that, and that's swim with fins. But then the 2 other days are just post leg day movements. Like today we did legs, and I have a noon swim with fins for an hour today. So yeah, that's the way I typically do it. A little smaller, get your ankles thing, and then make sure you're stretching your ankles. That's another one too. Very important mobility and flexibility of your ankles for wearing scuba fins. If you can sit on your heels, like with your shins, like your shins are underneath you, knees bent, you're on your knees, shins underneath you, and your butt is on your heels, and you have no space between the front part of your shin where it's down there by the ankle. When you're sitting down, it's flat to the ground. That's a good sign. That means you have some ankle mobility that shouldn't really bother you that much when you're swimming with big scuba fins. However, if you got that like 90-degree angle down here, like this is the floor here, and you see a gap like that, not like this, with the front part of your foot and bottom part of your shin, then if you're like this, your swimming with fins is going to really hurt until you get it to be able to be a little more flexible, kind of like a ballerina's point, if you would. So your ankle needs to extend to a ballerina's point, and then you will see that swimming with fins is a lot less painful. You said your weaknesses are on full display at Buds. Yep. Is there a worse weakness to have at Buds? Yeah, that's a great question. I've never really thought about it. For me, I personally think if you have a running weakness, that sucks because 26 weeks of Buds is a weekly 4 mile timed run. And then you do a couple of other runs during the week. And it's just a gut check. Every time you run, you're trying to, you know, not be anywhere near failing. So you're pushing yourself to be in that, 28-minute zone instead of the 31, 32-minute zone. So you got to mentally will yourself to get there, bring your A game basically to every run. And that's kind of stressful for 28 weeks. If you're an easy runner and you can do like 26:30 without even trying, I was jealous of you. However, if you have no strength and very little durability, those first 4 weeks are horrible. Like I remember being under the log and under the boat, and yes, they sucked and Hell Week sucked, but I never felt like I was getting physically crushed by anything. Um, that was just my experience there. But I guess swimming would be a tough one too, because every week there's a swim. Those first 4 weeks, there's a lot of swimming skills, water skills that are being tested underwater, drown proofing, knot tying, all of those things. That can be a challenge. I would just say a weakness is a weakness, and depending on how you handle that weakness, can you bring your A game to that weakness and make it less of a weakness? Or is it one of those things that you're just terrified of, like swimming or treading or something like that, and you can't get through it? Then I guess that if it's crippling to you, that could be pretty bad, obviously. Um, but if you've at least practiced your weakness honestly, and you know that whatever event that weakness is involved in will require a personal gut check for you to get through it. As long as you understand that, that's okay. Like I understood if I wanted to score in the top 25, 30% of the class in running, I had to bring my A game to those runs. And if I didn't want to get gooned, I had to stay in the pack and bring my A game to that run regardless of how far it was or how fast it was. I had to stay in that pack, and to do that required some mental focus and a little bit of grit as well to get through it, if that makes sense. Good question, though. I like that one. Naval Academy officer are without a doubt the most dedicated of all candidates. I wouldn't say that. I think they're without a doubt the most prepared of all candidates. At a macro level, how does their training cycle look like leading up to SOAS, and how can we ideally emulate them? Um, you know, dedication and prepared are pretty similar. Um, but I think there are some academy graduates who are overly prepared, perfectly prepared, and not dedicated enough, and they they either quit or they don't make it through the selection process. So at the academy, the good thing about it, there are people at the academy that have been through buds, probably over a dozen, including myself, as well as active duty SEALs and senior enlisted and officers that are there to basically provide community information and training guidelines and workouts. They're constant. You can get to a SEAL PT just about any day you wanted to. Um, Now their junior year, they actually ship um, buds instructors out to the academy to go through a weekend screener. So it is like It's like a day and a half, 36 straight hours of buds. Some of the worst events at buds rolled into those 36 hours. And that usually whittles the people who think they want to go to buds down to about 50% of who started. So we need that because otherwise we can't send 120 people to SOAS looking for 30 slots. So we get that number down to probably, I'd say 45 in the fall and get another 30 in the spring to go to SOAS. So we send about 75 people to SOAS. And with that, about 30 or 35 will get selected to go to buds. So you definitely want to be on the top 50% of that group. And that's a pretty hard group to be the top 50% of. It can happen, but it requires above average everything. Um, so how can you emulate them? I would suggest, well, you can email me. I'll show you the workouts that they're doing, um, that I have my guys do out there. And, they basically utilize the very similar principle I've been teaching for 25 years, which is that seasonal tactical fitness periodization, where they will go through cycles. Not all of them do it, but most of them, I would say, go through cycles of winter lift cycles, spring, summer, high rep calisthenics, high mileage cycles. And in the fall, it's usually some kind of testing event. They'll go do like a race, marathon, ultra race, triathlon, obstacle course race, things like that, that are a lot of fun. Um, or they'll be preparing themselves for the screener that occurs in the fall if they are juniors at the academy. So it is a pipeline within itself. Those 4 years, you can have a 4-year pre-training pipeline if you so choose to do that. Now, we also get guys that are just busy with varsity sports that also go to buds that they can't do all of those things, so they play catch up on the off season. Um, but yeah, there's plenty of opportunity for people to get out there and prepare. Kind of weird question, but they clearly have figured it out. Yeah, um, they haven't so much figured it out other than the academy itself has figured out a really good preparation program for people who are there for 4 years to follow, if that makes sense. If we're going to hit everything on how good is your good enough parts 1 and 2 and still have time before shipping out to buds, where should we focus on training? Good question. Um, you know, my suggestion is to consider everything. Consider all the tests, practice some of them, the treading especially. That tends to get people unexpected. Um, any water confidence stuff, you can practice drown proofing without tying yourself. Um, so, uh, yeah, I would just have fun, maintain all your stuff, as well as just try not to get injured. That's the biggest thing right now. Oh, let's see here. Any advice for fleet guys trying to get back to buds, but have a full year group? Oh man, that's just the nightmare because everybody thinks that, yeah, I'll go back, or they enlist with the hopes of going to buds, but first they're going to go to the fleet, which is fine. Some people have to do that just to get out of their circumstances, and probably are better off doing that. However, because of year groups being full and because of ratings being full or undermanned, um, you may not be able to get back or get to buds depending on what year you joined, and that sucks. There is a website called, I think it's My HR Navy or something like that. My Navy HR. Yeah, that's it. My Navy HR, right? And then if you do a search for SEAL community, I'll put the link in the comment section here. This is really a good page to look at. You can see here like all of the NSW numbers. If you play around with some searching here, there you go. So this is it right here. So check this out. I'm going to put this in the link here, but it's let me see what this is called. This is called mynavyhr.navy.mil. Check that out. That should work for you. At least show you some of the year groups and are they full or not. But here's the final piece of advice. If you cannot get 2 buds in your 4-year enlistment, you can do one of two things. You can say, hey, I'm getting out of the Navy unless I can get to buds. And maybe somebody will say, hey, we'd like to keep you in the Navy. Let's give you an opportunity to go to buds. Or you just get out and you do one of two things. You can go into the officer ranks if you have a college degree. A lot of guys do that. Or you can get out of the Navy altogether and go through Army SF selection and become a Green Beret. I went to an Army Green Beret graduation because one of my guys who could not get back 2 buds that was training with us, he got stationed locally and we were working with him trying to get him ready to go back to buds. Couldn't get back because of his rating was undermanned or his year group was full. Anyway, he's a Green Beret now and crushing it, loving it. I went up to that graduation and met probably 25 former Navy guys that could not get back 2 buds or could not get 2 buds from the fleet, and they were now Green Berets. So consider that an option. At what point do you stop training when tendinitis flares up? That's a really good point. If warming up doesn't work to alleviate all the pain, like so, a way that I know it's tendinitis is that like if it hurts when I'm just kind of sitting around or after getting up, my knee hurts or something. But if I go for a little jog or bike, do a few squats and it completely goes away and during the workout, it's fine. It doesn't hurt at all. If that's the case, I pretty much can say, yep, that's tendinitis. My muscles and tendons are a little more pliable now that I got the blood flowing in there. However, if your warm-ups do not let them go away, let that pain go away, then that is when you stop training. Like if it hurts continuously throughout the workout, you got to stop. So I usually test it out with like a 10-minute bike, a little half squat pyramid, 1 to 10. Do like run 100 yards, do a squat, run 100 yards, do 2, run 100 yards, do 3, work my way up to 10. And then if I'm not feeling good by 6, 7, 8, I won't even go to 10, right? It's kind of my test to see if my knee is bothering me or something else is bothering me that isn't going away because I warmed it up. That's what I do. And then make sure you're really focusing on your recovery. You got some compression, you got some you're massaging it, you're doing some stretching. Only when it's warm, so you may want to heat it up, especially if it's cold during the day, or it's you're not moving it. Try to heat it up before you stretch again. That's another way to help too. Yes, no problem, buddy. Thank you. What's the difference between your programming and Jeff's? Would you consider partnering up with JI? Um, well, we do a lot of stuff together. We definitely have a different philosophy when it comes to training. I always tell people I have a way to train, not the way to train. And we do. I mean, he's probably been on 150 podcasts with me discussing fitness and how we somewhat are a little bit different, but in the end, we're the same because we both have people, prepared for whatever selection that they're doing. Um, but it just depends, really. I tend to do a different system than he does. He does a block periodization model, which is similar to the way I train. Um, but it's also a little bit different. So I you know we've done a podcast on our running programs, the differences of it, and we've done a few others on that topic. You can find them on this YouTube channel. Um, but for the most part, um, you know, I guess we could do some kind of joint venture workout type thing. Haven't really thought about it, but I'm perfectly, satisfied with saying I have a way to train. I don't have the only way to train. So you as a student need to figure out which way to train, right? What way is best for you? Sometimes that means trying this, trying that, and seeing which one works better for you. A lot of it depends on your athletic history and your current goals too. Let's see. I've been signing up for a half marathon to make it challenging and a little mom fun. Is there any other way to make running a little more challenging? Add a ruck to it. Makes running suck. Do it hungover. That sucks. I'm just joking. Um, yeah. Hills, beach, soft sand, all makes running more challenging. So I would say hills, beach, and ruck. If you can do all three at once, that's even better. Get on it. So I got a few more questions and I need to bail. Would you recommend your spring training or fall training to get better at 4 mile timed runs? My weakness is running. Um, ooh, that's a good question. Um, Spring training is going to progress up to a running level, and fall training is going to progress down, but faster level. So it depends on where you are now on your running volume. If you're at very low running volume, I would suggest probably the spring. But if you're at a moderately high running volume, you're just not seeing results, try the fall because that one's going to gear you towards running faster for less miles, right? I think we dropped from like this fall training right here goes from like 25 miles a week down to 15, um, and just flat lines actually, um, throughout winter. So it's shorter, faster runs, whereas the spring and summer build into fast runs into longer runs to see if you can maintain that whatever you are running shorter, faster, can you do it for longer distances? So it's a volume control throughout the year more than anything else. That's a good question, though. I like that one. Either one will help you do that, but you just may have to alter some of the mileage per week in order to do it. All right. So one more time, one more question. Let's go. How many yards of fending do you recommend per week? Um, Good question. I would say progress to it. I would say be able to progress up to anywhere between 4 and 6,000 yards. We only swim with fins twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And I would say in our 3 times a week, we're swimming probably between 6 and 7,000 yards when we do that. So Um, yeah. So we do like a big run ruck swim with maybe a mile swim, so 2,000, and then we'll do a leg day swim with anywhere between 2 and 3,000 yards of swimming on those. So that's how we manage it. All right. So do you guys get faster at fast runs during the winter block if they aren't used to? Yes, we get faster at the shorter runs. A lot of times we're running outside, so we're just running to stay warm with some of the other activities. Um, but for the most part, yes, they are shorter, faster runs. No long, slow distance stuff. Just for the winter. But we make up for our more cardio in the pool and sometimes on bikes too, just to you know relieve ourselves from some of the impact of just running too much while we're trying to lift. So, all right, folks, I'm sorry. I do have to bail. It's been about an hour. You guys, I'll be back tomorrow. Send me a video of you swimming. I'll critique it for you. I have some already lined up, but if yours is a good one, I will show it tomorrow during the CSS critique show, which is at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I will be back and see you then. Have a good one.